All right, this problem is, let me make sure I have the right here. This is 2008, question number 1 for the AP Calculus test. And part A wants you to find the area of the region, and you do have a calculator available to you. Now, they did not give you function names for these two, but what you can do in the work of the problem. So basically, you're going to have space to write your answer to part A. In that space, you can specify f of x is equal to the sine of pi x, and g of x is equal to x cubed minus 4x. By doing that, you can save yourself the time of having to write these two functions every time they show up in an integrand. So for finding the area, you have the intersection points as 0 and 2. You can double check it with your calculator. And it is y top minus y bottom. The top y is the f of x. The bottom is the g of x. And all you have to write after that is the numerical answer that your calculator gives you. So as far as how many points was that part worth? That was worth 3 points. 1 point for having the limits 0 to 2, 1 point for the entire integrand, and then 1 point for the answer of 4. Also, you're probably wondering, if the answer is 4, do I have to write 4.000? The answer is no. If it's an exact answer, you don't have to write 3 digits after the decimal point. It's if the answer is needing to be rounded that you have to have that 3 digits. So then let's move on to letter B. And I'm going to erase the previous work so that there's room here. Okay, for B, you are told a horizontal line y equals -2. They were kind enough to say horizontal line. Splits the region R into 2 parts, right? But do not evaluate, yay, an integral expression for the area of the part in R that is below the horizontal line. So with your calculator, you are going to have to find these two intersection points. Once you find those two intersection points, you are writing an expression for area, and the area will be, again, a y top minus a y bottom, where the y top is -2, and the bottom is the function that I named as g of x. And then this one I did get the Desmos ready on. Bing. And so I can see that my A coordinate is 0.0539 and my B is 1.675. But make sure you save that in a store button where it is more accurate than just 3 digits after the decimal point if you're working on an AP test with a calculator. So then all you need to do is write those two numbers. I'm just going to quickly say that's A and B, and then move on to how many points was that worth. And 2 points. 1 point for the correct numbers on the limit, and 1 point for the correct integrand. Then we hit part C, and part C is a little bit familiar. I'm going to go back over here and erase the previous work. For part C, the region R is the base of a solid. Cross sections perpendicular to the x-axis. As soon as you read that, draw a line perpendicular to the x-axis only in the region. Now you're told that this is a square and you want to find the volume of the solid. So because we are perpendicular to the x-axis, our tiny cuts are horizontal, and it is a dx integral. Then I need to put in the limits based on x, 0 to 2. Now it comes into what is the geometry area formula for a square, length of side squared. And then for the length of the side, I need y top minus y bottom, which would be, if I'm correctly remembering the names I gave the functions, f of x minus g of x. I will say, though, that because of the squared, technically it doesn't matter which subtraction order you use because the squared will force it positive. So you are correct in this situation if you have the subtraction order reversed, but only because of it being squared. Then throw it in your calculator and let's look at the answer. Yep. 9.978. 1 point for the integrand, 1 point for the answer. And I want to also say that you got 1 point for the limits 0 to 2 in part A. If you lost that point in part A, you also lost the answer point in part A. But you did not lose any points in part C if you used the same numbers and it did not change the meaning of the problem. And finally, the last one, which is why I chose this problem. This is one of my favorite problems of all time, because in part D, it's finally not just asking you to regurgitate some memorized formulas. It's asking you to think about what's being created. And you have to realize what it's describing. So you are told that this is the surface of a pond. All points in R that are a distance x from the y-axis. So I'm going to draw a vertical line. Well, okay, let me try again. That just was not vertical enough. Vertical line, and that is a distance x from the y-axis. So that means whatever x I am currently dealing with in my integral, because again, it's a dx integral going from 0 to 2. And as x travels from 0 to 2, I'm going ding, 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 ding with those x's. So at this particular distance, I have a specific x coordinate that I am on. And the depth of the pond is 3 minus whatever that x coordinate is. So if you're trying to understand what's going on, you might think, well, when x is 0, that means the depth is 3 units. When x is 1, the depth is 2 units. When x is 2, the depth is 1 unit. So then if you can imagine, you are having this depth of 3, and it's like slicing up as if it were a plane underneath this, well, a tilted plane underneath this plane. Can you kind of see what I'm talking about? You've got a little slope of that plane going on. And do you see the cross-sectional shape? In part D, it doesn't mention cross-sections at all. But you have to interpret that what this is actually meaning is this is one side of a rectangle. And I'm going to put y top and y bottom, and then I'm going to draw this line and say that this is my y top and my y bottom that I saw there. The other dimension is 3 minus x. So the area of the cross section is a y top minus y bottom length multiplied by 3 minus x. And that gives you an area formula for that cross section. And then that was f of x minus g of x. And then solve the integral. So let me go back and show how many points that was worth. It was only worth 2 points, which makes me sad, but 1 point for setting up the integrand, but you can't get the answer point if your integrand is set up incorrectly. So you get the answer point if you set it up correctly and manage to use your calculator correctly. Oh, thank you. 5 minutes left. So I'm